We miss her. We miss her brown eyes. We miss her smile. We just miss her spirit.
That video was two of a group of 7 siblings talking about their missing sister. How did an update on another case pull me into that 25-year mystery? And how does that mystery affect the entire missing persons community? It's time to turn on the searchlight for Regina, also known as Gina Bos. Welcome back to Brain Scratch Searchlight. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and thank you for caring about these cases like I do. Today's episode is going to start with an update, and that is on a case that we covered here on the channel, but not on Searchlight, even though it was a missing persons case. This is Chance Englebert, and we covered it on the unfortunately short-lived Lorden Arts Uncovered show, one of my favorite projects that we've done here on the channel. I will have a link to that episode in the description box down below. Just in case you're not familiar with this case, we're going to stop at Uncovered's write-up on it. This is a case that is from 2019. We're not going to get into all the specifics, but just a brief overview. Just a week before Chance disappeared, he lost his job. He accepted a position with a local propane company, and he was supposed to start that new job when he returned from a 4th of July visit with his wife Bailey's family in Gering, Nebraska. On Saturday, July 6th, Chance went golfing with Bailey's dad and her sister's boyfriend. Bailey spoke with Chance while he was on the course. She said that the guys were drinking and having fun together. A short time later, Chance called her back and asked her to pick him up. He said he was upset over a comment one of his golf partners made about his new job. Bailey said they didn't argue on the way back to her grandparents' house, but when they pulled into the driveway, Chance got out of the car and walked away. Reports from friends indicated that he had told them he was walking home towards Torrington, Wyoming. That is a very long walk from where he is, over 36 miles, and on foot, that would have taken approximately 13 hours. I don't think many people are going to take on a 13-hour walk, so he was obviously extremely upset about the comment that had happened on the golf course, and for some reason didn't feel comfortable enough to try to work things out at his wife's family's home. So he went off on that long walk and he disappeared, and years passed. And we get to the update, this from theindependent.com. 6 years after Chance Englebert walked away from a family gathering in Nebraska and vanished, the question of what happened to him has finally been answered. DNA results confirm that the remains discovered in October of 2025 belong to the Wyoming father. The remains were found by a hiker in a rugged, remote area on the north side of Scottsbluff National Monument. Police said that the remains might be Englebert's based on items found on or near his body. They told the family that they believe Englebert chose that trail as a shortcut. And on this map, I've actually kind of adjusted it for taking that trail. And we can see he was in Gering and Scottsbluff National Monument. This is where his body would be located. Of course, after making the discovery, they have to verify that those remains are actually him. Here at WyomingNewsNow.tv, experts in forensic dentistry, forensic anthropology and archaeology, forensic pathology at Physicians Laboratory in Douglas County, Nebraska, and DNA forensic analysts at the Center for Human Identification in Fort Worth, Texas, and University of Nebraska Medical Center, Omaha, all assisted in the identification of the remains. And of course, with all those experts looking at it, they also have formed an opinion on his cause of death. The cause of death is listed as a pattern of blunt force trauma most consistent with a rapid deceleration event, including but not limited to a fall from height. The Douglas County Coroner's Office determined the death to be accidental. I've seen some pictures of this bluffs area, and there's bluffs, there's huge giant bluffs, almost like cliff sides. And it's just curious to think what could have happened out there. Was it because of the time that he was walking out there? Was it because he was distracted? We know he was probably already emotionally distracted, but was there other things going on around that as well? After an extensive investigation, including multiple agencies, evidence confirmed what the pathology report stated, that Chance had died as a result of a fall. Of course, we have a comment from the family here. All I can say is this is not any type of closure to us. There will just always be more questions. Thank you for all the support, prayers, and love. Please stay kind and careful what you post. And they posted this beautiful picture of Chance fishing. Now, knowing that Chance disappeared in and ultimately lost his life in Nebraska, I wanted to honor him in some way and try to serve that area by highlighting a story from there. I had no idea that would come full circle to this story helping so many other missing persons. But this is where we get into a very big development that has happened in Nebraska. Not a lot of states actually have their own missing persons day. From what I can see, it's a small handful. Now, of course, there is a national holiday in February for that, but certain states are taking the opportunity to make their own and just make that another day in the year and highlight those local cases specifically. Here at nebraskapublicmedia.org, Nebraska families gather to commemorate Missing Persons Day, which does occur in Nebraska on October 17th, which we're going to find is an important date for the case that we're reviewing next. Now, in 2025, they celebrated their second annual Nebraska Missing Persons Day. Law enforcement officers and family members read the names of missing persons across the state, including some who haven't been seen since the 1970s. From what I understand, Nebraska has over 300 missing persons cases. Family members gave heartfelt speeches about the importance of awareness for missing persons. Some even performed original songs. The event was held 25 years after Gina Bos was last seen leaving a pub in downtown Lincoln in the early morning hours of October 17th in the year 2000. She's been missing ever since, and her case remains unsolved. So just to give you a quick look, Gehring, Nebraska, where Chance went walking off from, is approximately somewhere around 400 miles away from Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln is practically on the other side of that state. But learning a little bit about Lincoln, it's the capital city of the U.S. state of Nebraska, and it covers 100 square miles. It had a population of about 291,000 as of the 2020 census. Of course, we're talking about a case from 25 years ago. Population at that time was somewhere around 225,000. Lincoln was founded in 1856 as the village of Lancaster. It was renamed after President Abraham Lincoln, and it became Nebraska's state capital in 1869. And of course, that brings us to Regina Marie Bos, also known as Gina. Date of last contact, October 17th, 2000. She went missing at the age of 40. Her current age would be 65 years old. For nicknames and aliases, she does have some other names she used. She was married twice before. So Gina Bos is actually, I believe that's the name of her second husband. Gina Williams is another name that she would go by, Regina Williams as well. Height, 5 feet 6 inches tall. Weight, somewhere between 105 to 120 pounds. A white Caucasian female. Circumstances of her disappearance: she walked out of Dugan's Pub at 11th and K Street carrying her guitar over her shoulder. Now, I've been trying to research a few pronunciations. First of all, in one news report, and I can only find really one news report on Gina's case, they pronounced her last name as Bos. But thankfully, my good friend Ed Dentzel over at the Unfound podcast did an episode on this way back in December of 2016, and he interviewed Gina's sister. He called it Dugards, she called it Dugards, and he referred to Gina Bos as Gina Bos with her sister present. So I have to assume that's the right pronunciation. But if you go looking for materials, you're going to find some variants on that. Let's get back to the details of the disappearance, though. So she walked out of Dugan's Pub at 11th and K Street carrying her guitar over her shoulder. Basically, she had performed at an open mic there. According to that interview with her sister, she was also there earlier in the day and was kind of talked into, hey, come back for the open mic tonight. Though she was known to do the open mic there on occasion. And on top of that, she was also known to work there. Now, I've seen some comments, I can't verify, but I've seen some comments saying that she was basically wait staff at Dugan's Pub occasionally. The next morning, after she disappeared, her vehicle was located across the street from the pub with the trunk ajar and her guitar inside. Her sister indicated that the time that Regina went missing was approximately 1 a.m. on October 17th, 2000. And I'm seeing in some places that it's being reported that 1 a.m. was actually closing time, which I'm curious about because I would think at closing time there'd be a lot of people leaving the bar at the same time, and her car is literally parked across the street. And based on what her sister said on the Unfound podcast, it's actually parked on the street. Now, I do see from the map that there are a couple of different ways that she could have parked there. We can see now that Dugan's is permanently closed. But if we kick on the satellite view, it looks like there's kind of regular parking on some streets, but on 11th Street specifically, they have this kind of parking where it's slanted off the street. So based on her sister's description, sounds to me like she might have been parked over on this side. Ed asked her a really interesting question about like, hey, you know that area. Would you feel safe walking across the street to your car? And her sister basically said, with where her car was parked, yes, like it was just right on the street. It wasn't like it was off in some dark parking lot or something like that. So obviously some good insight, and I highly recommend, as always, you check out the Unfound podcast. Just as a quick side note, to listen to an episode from 2016 and to listen to more modern episodes, Ed was always just great. I'll just leave it at that. If you haven't checked out Unfound, you really should. And I'm always proud whenever we get to work together. I hope that happens again soon. Back to Gina's description: brown hair. I've also seen it described as auburn, brown eyes. This is saying she wore contact lenses. That might have been on occasion. She also wore glasses, as you're going to see in several of the pictures that are scrolling down below. For piercings, she had multiple piercings in her ears. She also has freckles, and she had a tattoo of a small purple flower on her back. For clothing, unfortunately, not a bunch of great description here. Black shirt, black pants, black shoes. For eyewear, they're saying glasses with wire frames or contacts. So it seems like for some reason, even though she was in a public place, had performed that night, we're not even getting a solid description on, well, was she wearing her glasses that night or not? A couple of photos here. And of course, this is currently assigned to the Lincoln Police Department. And if you have information, please use the phone number that's on the screen. If you need to remain anonymous for any reason, we'll have a phone number for Crime Stoppers in the description box down below. Quick shout out to the Charlie Project for some additional details here. Just a little tweak on the clothing. Here, Megan notes that it is ankle-high black boots. Another description I saw said something about them having possibly 2-inch heels on them. Her maiden name is Rapp, and her previous married name is Williams. So there is another potential alias there as well. If she did decide to leave her own life, leave her 3 kids behind, which no one really thinks is likely, this pretty much looks like a foul play situation, even from law enforcement's perspective. But let's continue with a little bit more on the details. She is a musician. From what I hear, a whole lot of her family are musicians, and they're all very musical. As a matter of fact, that's a little bit in how her sister Janelle kind of looks to help the world in some way. Witnesses at Dugan's Pub said that Bos was in good spirits during the evening. One little wrinkle on that we did learn from Janelle's interview on Unfound is that she had a boyfriend at this time. Originally, he was planning on going to that open mic with her, and then it sounds like on the way changed his mind, decided he didn't want to do that, and it seems like that was because of a disagreement they were having. I don't know the context. Ed tried to ask around that, and Janelle just didn't really remember the context. It didn't seem like earth-shattering, whatever this disagreement was between her and her boyfriend, but she effectively dropped her boyfriend off at his home with the plan that she would go and pick him up later, and then they would go back to her home where her kids were, and that they would spend the night at her house. Her ex-husband saw her at Dugan's, so her ex-husband apparently also hangs out at this place. They spoke for a while before he left at 10 p.m. She departed the club at approximately 1 a.m. on October 17th. So keep in mind, this would be October 16th is the evening she's performing. It rolls past midnight. October 17th is when she's leaving. She was telling friends that she planned to pick up her boyfriend at his residence and then proceed home to be with her 3 children for the rest of the night. Her boyfriend fell asleep waiting for her, and then he woke up at midnight, but she still hadn't arrived, so he just assumed that they'd talk in the morning. He woke up a few hours later, and he paged her multiple times. Her pager was back at home, and the sound of it going off woke up her children. When they realized that she hadn't arrived home, they called their father and their maternal grandparents. Bos's boyfriend called her children at approximately 6:30 a.m., and at 6:38 a.m., he was on the phone with the police reporting her as missing. Her Saturn was discovered parked across the street from Dugan's pub later that day. There was no sign of Bos at the scene, but her guitar and sheet music were inside the trunk, which was slightly open. So I know on the previous description it said ajar. Even the way that her sister describes it is more like the trunk was closed, but it wasn't latched effectively, so someone can go and open it up, which seems strange because apparently she loved her guitar. She even had a nickname for her guitar. Her sister talks about that if she was going to a restaurant, she would bring the guitar out of the car into the restaurant with her because she didn't want the climate damaging her guitar. So for her to take something so important to her, put it in the trunk, and then not close it all the way certainly seems odd. Her purse was not found at the scene. Continuing at KLKN-TV, just wanted to get a little insight into Dugan's Pub. This is an article from 2015, and it's about the closing of the pub. But it was known as a staple in downtown Lincoln. It was known as a dive bar, one of those places where you could walk in by yourself and you always know somebody. The bar was established back in 1978, and it became a popular local music scene. But after 37 years, the time came to throw in the towel and retire, and the bar was closed. Let's continue with some articles here. And some of these articles, we're going to have to lean on Tapatalk because the early articles from the early 2000s have disappeared from most places. Thankfully, there's people that captured it and saved those in a Tapatalk. But we did find one at dailynebraskan.com about Lincoln woman still missing. And this is about a week after her disappearance. Captain Gary Engel said Bos's disappearance has concerned her family and her boyfriend, Michael Johnson. Several of Bos's siblings have traveled to Lincoln from out of state to aid in the search, Johnson said. When she disappeared, Bos left behind 3 children, an 11-year-old girl and 13 and 15-year-old boys. She's not the kind of person to leave her children unattended at all, Johnson said. The children have been in Bos's family's care since her disappearance. Engel said police have seen no indications of foul play, but they are concerned about Bos and would like to know that she's okay. So obviously, all of these children, I mean, they could be married and have children of their own at this point. The 11-year-old girl would probably be about 36, and the boys are going to be a few years older than her. I mean, they're coming up on 40. All of those kids not knowing where their mother is still to this day. Now, unfortunately, some Tapatalk users were better than others. On this one, we don't have the publication, but we do have the author. So this was written by David Hendy. When her sister disappeared after performing at an open microphone night at a Lincoln pub, Janelle Rapp felt helpless. I'd look up at the moon and think that if I could just scream loud enough for her to hear me, maybe we could find her, Rapp said. Rapp said rumors and tips about her sister, a singer and songwriter and single mother of 3, continue to dribble into Lincoln police. Maybe all the pieces will someday fit together, she said. Right now, nothing fits. And here we are talking about it 25 years later, and they definitely still do not have all the pieces. This written in the Lincoln Journal-Star. D. Rapp, that is their mother, thinks, get over it, get on with your life. Look how long it's been. A petite woman walks by, walking the way that Gina walked, with a lilt in her step, the same auburn hair. Dee's heart stops, just for a second. She knows it's not her daughter. She sneaks a look. She knows she'll see a stranger's face, but she can't stop herself. I don't think it's her, but I want it to be, Dee says. No one has ever been arrested in Gina's disappearance. As a matter of fact, for all the media that I've been able to find on this case, the only mention of a real person of interest came in the Unfound interview. And effectively, it was about Michael Johnson, about her boyfriend, and just him being looked at because, of course. And also, they had a disagreement that night. Her sister Janelle believes that he was actually given a polygraph test and that he passed that. Now, of course, we all have different opinions about the validity of polygraphs. But There is one other slight mention we're going to hear from law enforcement, even though it's not very clear. And I don't know if it's Michael that they're discussing in that or not, but we will get to that as we continue here. Lincoln Police Detective Greg Sorensen thinks he's talked to her killer. He won't say much more, only that the killer should call him and let him know where the body is. Her family knows Gina is dead. If she were alive, we would know, her mother says. She would have never left her children, never, ever. Gina was a single mom with 2 sons and a little girl. Her family joked that she had a 4th child, Harley, her guitar. Over at doenetwork.org, we do have another captured article from Lincoln Journal-Star. The phone calls began a year after Gina Bos disappeared from outside of Dugan's pub. Sometimes it's smack that killed her. Sometimes it's meth. Sometimes it's the Mexican mafia silencing her because she knew too much about the drug trade. It's never firsthand information, says Lincoln Police Detective Greg Sorensen, but it keeps going around and around in a vicious circle. He has no evidence to make him believe the rumors are true. Some of the rumors came from busted drug dealers bartering with the cops. Sometimes people called to say they knew the truth and just wanted to clear their consciences. At the time one of the rumors was coming in, we were having heroin overdoses in the city, and that was the link, said Sorensen. A couple of times I thought, this is it. And then it wasn't. People lied, trails dead-ended. But someone out there knows, he says. As for Janelle, she does not believe that her sister used drugs. She was against them, she said. And Sorensen agrees. We found no evidence that she was a drug user. Gina was taking medication when she disappeared. She had struggled for years with depression, and then the opposite, too much energy, a mania that took hold and wouldn't let go. Gina knew better than to take street drugs with her prescription, Rapp says. They've chased a lot of ghosts, the detective said, in Colorado, Arizona, California, Michigan, Canada. I'm reaching in the dark, he said. He also said the family deserves to know. Her children deserve to know. We want to bring her home. In his follow-up to the interview with Janelle, Ed mentions the pager. And basically, he's wondering about the fact that she left the pager at home because the pager obviously woke up her children. There's a story that Janelle tells about one of the children just being brought back from a Disney World trip with grandma, and that things were kind of hectic, and it seems like Gina basically left just forgetting the pager. But, being old enough to have lived in that time period myself, I can tell you there's certain places I would go to where I would not take my pager. And, if I was going to go out for the night, and especially if I was going to go perform or something like that, I don't know that I'd have it with me. Now, admittedly, I'm not a parent. I think that was probably something that she would have for that relationship, for her kids to know, hey, we could always page mom. So I'm kind of leaning into Ed's belief as well, that it was just something that got missed. Sometimes people forget their phone. Sometimes people forget their wallet, something along those lines. But I just wanted to point that out because I think we don't have enough signs here to really point to, Gina was trying to leave her life behind. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense with her. I mean, her purse is missing, but why leave the guitar like that? I mean, if she wanted to try to stage something to make it look like there was an abduction of some kind, she didn't exactly do that. I mean, law enforcement doesn't even really, initially, at least in the first week, believe that there's any indicators of foul play. I've seen no description of anything around the scene of her car that would make you think that there was any kind of struggle or anything like that, and they have not publicized that, which I would think they would. Just in terms of trying to drum up tips that could be helpful to the case. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. There are some questions a little bit around that pager. I don't know that we have a really solid answer, but to me, this case just doesn't have the makeup of someone that left of their own volition. It seems like something else was going on there. And the tricky thing about this is you've got this kind of intense social circle, this place where she sometimes worked, she would go to frequently, she was there earlier in the day. And, when you combine that with the potential for how many people did she know? How many people did she interact with? How many potential people could there have been that were watching her? Just that number starts growing exponentially. This is quite a bit different because there are a bunch of eyes. She's literally, I think she performed 4 songs that night. She's literally performing and walks outside in a downtown area close to a university, a block and a half from the police station, in a spot that's parked on the street, and disappears. I don't know. Let's see if we can get some more insight from some more of these articles. This one was posted in the Journal Star originally. When Gina vanished, Janelle flew home from California to join the search for her 40-year-old sister, a mother of 3. Everyone was frantic, crazy. The police called the disappearance a missing person under suspicious circumstances. So thankfully, it seems like they get to that fairly quickly. And another thing I want to point out, which you'll also get from Ed's podcast when you listen to that, please do if you're interested in this case. The family doesn't have a lot of bad things to say about law enforcement. And even seeing how there was only one mention in that article like a week after that they didn't think this was necessarily a foul play situation. Everything else I'm seeing is there's suspicious circumstances and there's a lot of concern about what's going on here. For a long time, the family held on to hope. The hope is gone now, but they still need to find Gina's body. Janelle was writing songs about her missing sister. A year after Gina disappeared, she was organizing concerts. She'd called all of her friends in the music business, and they put together 13 concerts and a compilation CD with pictures of 13 missing people. They handed out the CDs and told people to look, listen, and pass them on. They did. One CD ended up in the hands of a young man. He studied the photographs, and he saw himself. He went home to his family. That's why she does this. So from this loss, this sister takes it and takes the energy and the momentum. Once she's burned through, I mean, they were putting up flyers everywhere. They were trying to figure out, how do we keep awareness raised to this? And basically, this light goes off over Janelle's head of like, oh, well, I'm always trying to raise awareness. Just usually it's for my music career. Let me kind of twist these things together and do some good. And she tells a really interesting story about that. And I'm going to tease it here just to try to get you guys to listen to Unfound. The 13th person that gets added to the CD, you'll know what I'm talking about when you listen to it. But very touching and moving when I see families that find a way to honor their missing loved ones like that, but also a way to focus and help others and spend some of that frustration energy. I don't know what else you call it. In the years since Gina disappeared, Janelle has organized dozens of concerts, appeared on countless television shows. She even managed to get Gina's photograph in the Grammy Awards. More than 300 missing people have been profiled on her website at 411gina.org. Janelle has become that person that we wished we had when Gina disappeared, that squeaky wheel. And Squeaky Wheel would be the name of the tour that they do. We jump forward many years. I think this article is from 2018. Orange County musician still seeks the missing. And just look at this photo, guys. All these missing person posters that she keeps. Janelle Rapp still has her sister's guitar, but that's all. There have been no birthday cards, no phone calls, no news at all since Regina Marie Boss, everyone called her Gina, disappeared. But in the intervening years, Rapp, a music teacher and singer-songwriter who performs regularly, has never stopped searching, not just for Gina, but for thousands of other missing men and women, girls and boys. Through the efforts of Rapp's nonprofit group, the Gina for Missing Persons Foundation, Rapp uses whatever method she can to raise awareness of those who've gone missing. And in Anaheim Christian School last week, she brought posters for students to photograph and share with their Instagram connections. I can't believe I've been looking into these stories for over 10 years, and it just never occurred to me. And for her, it's just such a simple mechanism. She thought of, okay, we're going to put up posters everywhere. But then she was like, well, no, I'm going to start taking posters and I'm going to ask the kids to take a picture of it and then share it. It's, I mean, just simple, brilliant steps like that that can really help these cases. And I can't believe that I'm still learning all these years later. It only takes one flyer, one share, one newspaper article. It only takes one set of eyes that knows something. Very true. So there are some additional details that kind of came out in this more recent round. Some of it's going to sound like a retread, but I just want to go over this just to make sure we're not missing anything. October 17th, 2000, Gina, they're saying who was then 41. I believe she was 40 at that time. Her birthday's in early November. She was playing an open mic night at a Lincoln pub. After making plans for a future recording session, she left at closing time and was never seen again. That's the only mention that I've seen of that. I do think her sister talked about some plans that she had made with other musicians at that open mic night. And I think that's really just being laid out to make sure that we're all aware that, hey, look, if she was planning on disappearing that night, why is she talking to people about, hey, we've got plans to do something later? Wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Police had little to go on and they made no progress. There were no screams. There was no blood evidence, no fingerprint evidence. Her purse wasn't found, Rapp said. There was nothing. And that's one of the hardest things about this case, just in terms of physical evidence. There's nothing that we have except for her car was found, the trunk ajar, her music, and her guitar in there. Gina Bos had something of which to be proud. She was excited, her sister told Dateline. She had just gotten hired as a manager at a FedEx Kinko's in Lincoln, Nebraska. Quote, Gina was so multi-talented that she had a hard time choosing what she wanted to do, Janelle told Dateline. Gina had been divorced twice, and according to her second husband, Dave Bos, their divorce ended amicably, and he knew that she was happy about her new job. Dave Bos, Gina's ex-husband, also happened to be at Dugan's pub. She was in a real good mood, he said. She loved to sing in front of people. Dave said that he and Regina chatted that night, catching up on each other's lives. He told Dateline he left the bar alone around 10 or 10:30 when Gina was done singing. Dave said that when he left, she was hanging out with other singers and friends at the bar. Now, of course, knowing the stats on intimate partner violence and knowing that that's a strong possibility in this case, that violence is a strong possibility in this case, and knowing that obviously law enforcement looked in the direction of the boyfriend for a period, I would have to think that Dave was looked at as well. He interacted with her that night. But we don't have any information to say that there's any serious consideration around him there. This is literally all the details that I could find. And if nothing else, we can tell from this that he was at least willing to be interviewed by Dateline and that he participated in that interview and it seems like told them what he knew. Of course, we don't know how this case plays out because we don't know where Gina is. Michael said that he got up and he paged Gina multiple times, so kind of speeding up the timeline. The sound of the pager woke up the children, and he reports her missing to the Lincoln Police Department at 6:38 a.m. In terms of that timeline, I can't say that I don't have some concern, because if there was something that could have happened, possibly, is she could have gone to pick him up. Something could have happened there, and he could have taken her car back. I have no information to support that. All I'm looking at are the pieces that we know for the time frame of when she's last seen, and we've got this big long window until her car is spotted there again. We have no confirmation that the car did not leave that parking spot. We have no confirmation that that's even the original parking spot that the car was in. So that's the only big giant question mark that I'm going to leave on that. But as I've previously mentioned, Janelle says, seems like he was investigated. Here we are 25 years down the road. Law enforcement hasn't taken any action in that direction, even though one of them is saying, I'm pretty sure we talked to the murderer and he should call us and tell us where the body is. I don't know, but that's a gap in this story and a possibility that unfortunately I can't find information to really put to rest. Detective Sorensen told Dateline that police immediately began searching on foot with cadaver dogs. So keep in mind, they're out there within, I mean, it's called in within 6 hours of her disappearance as a missing persons report. I don't know how quick they got the dogs out there, but this is pretty fast motion in terms of a missing persons case, especially for back in 2000. You would think that Wouldn't they have gone through that same hoop that every family does about, no, you got to wait 48 hours. Oh, she'll probably pop up somewhere. I don't know what the timeline is for the cadaver dogs to show up, but her family has been pretty complimentary about the police response on this. Janelle flew to Lincoln the next morning. When she got there, she passed out as many flyers as possible, especially to truckers who might travel far. Gina's ex-husband, Dave Bos, said the longer that she was gone, the more concerned I was. Of course, at the time of this article, 18 years later, Lincoln police have not publicly named a suspect or person of interest. Detective Sorensen told Dateline that there are leads coming in all the time and that they have interviewed everyone involved in Gina's life. That might be another side effect, well, of two things. Number one, of the excellent work that her sister is doing in raising the exposure to this case again and again. But combine that with the rumor mill of what was a pub network, a bunch of people that would get together, tell stories all the time. And effectively, what it sounds like is some of those stories, which might be completely fabricated, just keep recirculating because people told them and then other people heard them. And then the awareness gets re-raised again. And all of a sudden, oh, I heard a story that could be related to that. So it seems like that's kind of why I read that article with all the description of the, oh, it was smack that killed her. No, it was meth. It seems like they're hearing some of the same tips over and over again. If we haven't talked about one of those possibilities here in this video today, and you think you have some different story, call that in. Call that in. Quite honestly, even if it's related to one of the stories you have heard, call it in anyway, because maybe you have a detail that they don't have that proves that one of those stories they thought wasn't true actually is. The detective suspects Gina was the victim of someone she knew. There is no way she would be forcibly taken off the street in front of all those people that night by a stranger, he told Dateline. I think she knew who her assailant was. I think his logic makes a lot of sense. It's part of what I was struggling with this. And the only question I have that I'd even put to the detective on that is, what if her car came back later? Her sister, Janelle, told Dateline, I believe that somebody took her and ended her life. Detective Sorensen told Dateline Gina's case is an open missing persons case, but that investigators have been approaching it as a homicide from the start. We don't have enough probable cause to arrest somebody, he said, but do I think I know who killed her? Yes. That has to be frustrating. I almost am not sure if it's good for him to be publicly stating that, because it's got to hurt for the family to hear that. And if you're going to publicly state that, I almost wish that there was some information you could put out in the public. Like, look, I know they can't accuse someone openly, but if there was some ancillary information that they could put out there to try to elicit the tips to prove or disprove that person. And I don't know what that could be. It could be a description of a vehicle. Did you see this particular car somewhere? I don't know. It's so hard. Like, I don't know how you could carve out some information, make sure that it's not attached to the person that you think actually did this, and then put that information into play. It's hard to know without actually knowing more about what's going on with the case and his thought about who that might be. 20 years later, Lincoln police tell Channel 8 that there are over 1,000 police reports over the years, specifically in the case of Gina Bos. And of course, that brings us back to kind of what started the hoop of this story. Nebraska launching its first ever Missing Persons Day, and that was in 2024. A quiet hush came over the sanctuary as Janelle Rapp stepped up to the microphone, her eyes filled with tears as she began to talk about her sister, Gina Bos, and the effect of knowing a missing person. 24 years later, October 17th now marks Nebraska's Missing Persons Day. So it honors Gina every single time it comes around. Gina for Missing Persons Foundation, a foundation to create awareness and media attention for missing persons worldwide, created by Rapp, hosted an event to commemorate Nebraska's first ever annual Missing Persons Day at First Christian Church in Lincoln. According to Rapp, this legislation has been a long time coming. We may never find out what happened to Gina, but wherever Gina is, it is certain she is bringing other lost people home with this day, Rapp said. The families of not only Gina Bos, but Tyler Goodrich are the reason that the bill passed the first year that it was introduced. Tyler Goodrich, another case that we've covered here on Searchlight. And from what I read, it actually passed unanimously the first time it was presented. And how often does that happen? Since the beginning, we have felt like Gina's disappearance had to be more than her vanishing, Rapp said. It had to be something that was significant, that was beautiful, and that made a difference for other people. And it has become that. The event is purposeful because it helps raise awareness in the community and highlights the efforts of family and local law enforcement. That's a really good touch on that too, about bringing these two units that traditionally, I mean, if you watch every episode of Searchlight, it's more often that we're saying the family is upset with law enforcement's response. Thankfully, a day like this can help bring those two parties together, maybe raise awareness for law enforcement from them hearing from these family members about what they're going through, and vice versa, show support for these families by members of law enforcement participating in this as well. And at least for the first 2 years, it certainly looks like it's working. Here is a post from the Lincoln Police Department of them marking Missing Persons Day for Nebraska coming up on October 17th here as well. Not only all that, but right across the street from where Dugan's Bar used to be is a tree with this sign. Regina Gina Rapp Williams Bos was last seen here October 17th, 2000. Nebraska Missing Persons Day, October 17th. So if you're moved to do so, I will have a link down below, or you can just type in the address. It's easy to remember, 411gina.org. Please come here, take a look at the Gina for Missing Persons Foundation. And if you're moved to do so, hit that little yellow link in the upper right-hand corner that says donate and become part of something very special that's helping a lot of people. And on behalf of myself and my amazing supporters here at Lord and Arts, we have already made a donation to this organization earlier today. Also, once again, a big shout out and a huge thank you to my good friend Ed. Ed, thank you so much for this episode of Unfound. I will have a link to that in the description box down below. Also, a few other threads. There's a thread over at Reddit, good respectful chat going on over there, which doesn't always happen on Reddit, but it was a really good write-up. And because of that, there's some good respectful chat happening there. And of course, Web Sleuths, where the most respectful of conversations happens, and some might say occasionally the most helpful of conversations happens. Where is Gina Bos? That's the question. And if you're the person that has the answer, please call it into law enforcement. Her family has been waiting 25 years. She has several kids that are adults now. She might even have grandchildren. All of them deserve the answers. Thank you so much for joining me here today. You might have noticed we don't have commercials run in the middle of these videos. There's one at the very start, and if you're kind enough to stay and let the one at the end play, that helps us out greatly. But we can only do that because of our amazing supporters. If you'd like to become one, please visit lordandarts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee. All of it helps keep us here trying to help these families in these tough situations and making donations to great organizations like we found here today. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend, and please join us again next week for a brand new episode of Brain Scratch right here on the Lord and Arts channel.